Welcome back to the Step Into Your Power virtual event, where we're speaking with beautiful experts on how to crush your inner critic, how to discover your unique gifts and talents, and how to live the life you really want to live. I'm your host, Monica Stevanovic, and I'm delighted to introduce our guest, Christina Mars. Welcome, Christina. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Monica. I love to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited with our interview.
Fantastic. So a little bit of background on Christina. She's the founder of Horse Guided Empowerment. She's the CEO of Mars Method. She's a heart math trainer, and she specializes in trauma and anxiety. So Christina, thank you again for joining. I'd love to start off with hearing a little bit about you. So can you tell us about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, you need to know that I'm German originally, but I live in Ecuador for over 20 years. And what you see here in the background, it's a virtual background, but it's actually the place where my herd lives, where I work, and where I will be living with my family in no time. So I'm very, very excited, and we are
beautiful.
very
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. And it's really the place where I am right now is a result of, I think, everything I have lived through my entire life, like starting at a very young age. My parents divorced when I was very young. My home was complicated. My mom struggled, or still struggles, with social anxiety. So there was a lot of tension in the home, depression. And at some point I was introduced to horses at like age 5, maybe. And I loved it. It was like so different. So it felt so free, so empowering. I had a voice. I felt important and seen and capable and all of that. And that actually never stopped. So when I was a teenager, I started to train complicated horses. Then when I moved to Ecuador 20 years ago, I started to rescue horses. And then I invited kids. Like Ecuador is a third world country, and there's a lot of kids in our rural area that have very little education, very complicated homes, a lot of violence. And I started to invite them to the horses just for fun. And I saw that what they did for me actually would be reproduced. And they also did it for other kids. And it was so easy to achieve. It just came like naturally. I couldn't stop it. So I started to investigate and research, am I the only person who has found out about that, or is there somebody else? And I found several like methods, models, schools for coaching or learning with horses, and none of them, I like none of them.
Okay.
And that led me to develop my own model, to write it down, to experience it, to tweak it, to eventually then teach it many years later. But it took me a long time to validate it, very long. In the beginning, it was like, like a flaw that I didn't study with somebody big, that I didn't have the money to invest in some like big training, and that I came up with it on my own. That felt flawed. Today, I'm really grateful for my creativity and for that boldness of just doing it. So I started on my own. I started to work and to attend clients with my horses on my own. And after a couple of years, I said, this is awesome. I love it, but I'm kind of lonely. So I would really like to share it with somebody, have a colleague, work in a team, do it together, exchange experiences, these kind of things. So I announced, with clients and friends and acquaintances, who wants to join me for a couple of days and learn what I'm doing. And I thought I would do it once. Right now I'm running the 21st and the 22nd certification group. So there was actually a calling for it, a need for it. And that's where it started. So
yeah,
I'd
so
say even though like 5.
Yeah, that's so beautiful and courageous. And I love that you created your own method and found something that works and, followed your calling. That takes a lot of courage. So what is it about working with horses that helps with healing and helps with, like helps people feel whole. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things, and I could talk about this for the next like 15 hours. So if somebody wants to know, lovely people listening to us right now, if you want to know more, please contact me. Please get in touch. I love to talk about it. So there's a couple of explanations. One is about neurotransmitters, because that's that soft, nice stimulus that we get from the horses when we touch them. That really creates endorphins and dopamine, and it makes us feel good. So there's a biochemical reaction within us. And then if we sit, like I also do regular counseling sessions, talk therapy. But when somebody sits in your counseling office, those of you who are like coaches or therapists, that people arrive and they make themselves like smaller than small,
Right.
double crossed, and they feel very insecure. But when you stand in the paddock with the horses, what happens is that you naturally expand your body. So you will roll your shoulders back, you will lift your chin, you will do big movements. Like petting a horse is like a long movement. It's not something small. And that also helps us to feel more in control, more empowered, more present, and it makes it easier to get in touch with difficult topics. And then the part that I love most about it, and I could, elaborate on all of those, but the one that I love most, you mentioned that I'm a heart math trainer.
Yes.
And heart math, some of you might know, heart math is about the heart rate variability. That sounds very complicated, but it's not. It's not about a fast or a slow heartbeat. It's about how much space is between each heartbeat, how much time. And is that always the same time? Is it consistent, or is it irregular and chaotic? And once it is consistent and balanced, we feel better right away. We feel calmer, safer, and it also creates resilience over time. So it actually stimulates your immune system and so many other things. So
right, and it brings you back to the present moment, yes, right? So like when you're with an animal, I can imagine you have to feel so present where you feel more of yourself, right?
Yes, you're more centered. You like arrive in the current moment. But there is something spectacular about this heart rate, because we tend to adapt to it. So if you, for example, come into a room where there's a lot of anxious and nervous people, you start feeling anxious right away. And that's because your heart can't help itself, and it will adapt to the other heart rates around you through a magnetic field and, a lot of like researchable things. So the horses we work with, they live in a natural herd and they are calm, and they irradiate a magnetic heart field that is so strong that once we step into it,
wow,
immediately.
And that's chills.
It's so wonderful. So it prepares the ground for all kinds of things, for like team trainings in a nice atmosphere, not adrenaline rushes, but actually empathy, respect, communication. We do family sessions. I do trauma therapy. We do couples. That's wonderful. Also wonderful because it's so soft and so subtle. There's no fighting going on. There's no loud words. There's no re-traumatization. So it's really, I love it, as you can probably.
So beautiful. What an amazing passion. So I know that you're also an expert when it comes to trauma and it comes to anxiety. I'm sure a lot of your experiences in childhood, informed a lot of what you do. So can you talk a little bit about trauma and anxiety and how you got into that work?
Yeah. So first of all, for our lovely listeners here, these are like big topics. They sound a bit scary: trauma, anxiety, and a lot of people might want to say, no, it doesn't affect me, I'm fine. Honestly, I think that all of us, probably most of us, have some anxieties, maybe hidden, well hidden or not so well hidden, and some traumatic experiences. And it's not about thinking, well, I haven't lived through any war, for example. there's a lot of small things that can lead to a traumatic experience. For example, if you were in the hospital as a child for like tonsils or something, minor, probably it created a lot of anxiety in your small child mind, and you probably still deal with it because it's just not logically explainable for a child what is going on there. And very often parents try to not scare their kids, so they don't give them the truth. They say, this will be over in a minute, and when you come out, you can have all the ice cream you want. That doesn't say, you'll wake up in a room where there's nobody else, and it's really cold, and it's really different, and I will not be there immediately, and you have, some pain in your throat, and you won't understand what it is. So think about really normal experiences, or being barked at by a big dog. That raises some primal fear. And then there's also the part that is actually inherited. We know now that trauma and severe anxiety changes our physiology. It is imprinted in the cells. So I sometimes have clients who actually do not understand where a behavior comes from. They cannot explain it. And sometimes it's because they are like carrying the baggage of somebody before them who did not deal with it. So it could be a parent, could be a grandparent, could be a caretaker. If you had a nanny who had to flee from or was an illegal immigrant from Mexico, there is a lot of trauma in there and a lot of anxiety. So I invite everybody to, first of all, be open to exploring these things. If something feels weird, threatening, difficult for you, pause, breathe, focus the attention on the area of the heart, maybe, and just feel into it. How old do you feel when you experience this emotion? That gives you a hint on when it started. Some people are like, I feel like a little girl. I can't even deal with anything, and then people say, which is so stupid. I'm a grown-up person. I'm a successful businesswoman. I know, but you still have in your cells things that might go back to your early days, to your first years, or to something that your parents experienced. So what we want to do is search behavior that is different. So for example, if you normally sleep really well and then you don't, that's an alert. Or if you normally eat a certain portion and then you have no hunger at all, or a lot of hunger and binge eat, that's a symptom. And it can really be all of it. It can be more sleep, less sleep, more eat, more food, less food, hyperactivity, or freezing reflex like depression. So don't say anxiety looks like this. It can look like a gazillion different ways.
Yeah, I love what you're so right. A lot of us think that trauma or anxiety needs to be some really big event, but it could just be something someone said to you and you internalize it in your body, and it could have been there since you were a little kid.
Right.
So yeah, and so your advice is to really start feeling into your body, feeling into yourself, and observing, and just having an open mind, right?
Yes, correct. And for those who say, I don't feel anything, or I have no memories from my childhood, that is the biggest alarm sign, because that means that your body is shut down from these emotions. It's protected for your own good. That's not a flaw or a mistake. That probably at some point of your life was a survival strategy. So congratulations for having developed it. And now there's a time when you can let go. And a very good way to start doing this, to start feeling your body, is creating sensations. Could be hot water or cold water, and just feeling, where does your foot touch the shower floor? How does it feel when you walk on grass or on sand? Let it run through your hands, touch animals, just get back the sensory stuff into your body. And then you could very well start experiencing like flashbacks of memories, or of like, I feel scared all of a sudden and I don't know why. Well, those are the ones that you want to explore a little more. And don't be scared of getting trapped in it. Actually, I like to compare it with, these steam cooking pots, right?
Right.
That build up steam, and then it's trapped inside. And if you leave it inside, at some point, the whole thing will explode. It can't contain it anymore. But if you let off a little steam, it's good. We're under control. So a little exploring, a little crying is really good because it lets out steam, and then you can go into the next phase. If you try to block it and like, no, and I don't want to cry and I don't want to fall into it because it's too scary, at some point it will explode, and probably in a moment when it's like least appropriate, like when something important is going on, or when there is a difficult situation, like you need to attend your child in the hospital or something, and then you're suddenly overwhelmed. So it's really wise to get to it under different circumstances.
Yeah, what you say really resonates, because I spent most of my childhood, I was very sensitive as a child, but then for most of my adolescent and years and in my 20s, I don't think I felt anything. It was like stone. And I had to like learn to start feeling again and start to get it back into my body. So I did exactly what you said, where like, because of survival, like I was like, I don't want to feel this. And so once I started getting back into my body, I was like, wow, it doesn't feel so good in here. So it's a journey, I think, to like be compassionate with yourself, accept and know that clearing all of those parts of yourself is what helps like the inside, the presence, the heart really shine so you can stand in your power.
Right. It's absolutely true. And it might look like a gigantic task that is too much, but you go small steps and you can actually change it. It is possible. I have experienced it. You have experienced it. There's going to be a lot of people here in our audience who will say, yes, me too. I know what you mean. It is possible to overcome those early imprints. And I, as a teenager, I was so shy. Oh my God. Like in our home, everything was very difficult for my mom. Like picking up the phone. She went into ruminating for 2 hours if it would be the right moment, or if she's maybe waking up the other person, or if she's disturbing them or whatever. So picking up the phone was like a no, don't do that. Or running errands, like going to the bank, going to the administration, the city hall, whatever, was like such a big thing. And it was, and she transmitted that it was scary, that it was dangerous, that we were bothering people, that we were not wanted, these things. So overcoming that, that was like a big thing. For the longest time, when I don't know, I had a trip or something, I thought that I definitely got the date wrong, that I probably forgot something important, that I wouldn't be able to travel, and that I was like so out of place and so wrong. And doing it and like pushing through that and doing it anyway is hard in the moment, but every time it will be a little bit easier. So you can like compare it with this inertia. When we don't do something for a while, we start to believe that we can't. I remember that I lived in Argentina for a couple of months, and I didn't have the international driver's license, so I didn't drive there. And in the beginning, it was like, well, not a big deal. Somebody else will drive. And after a couple of months, I thought I couldn't. And then I came back and I'm like, no, I can't drive. What? So we make up these stories in our minds to explain things, and it doesn't make sense. Our brains are like not really smart, actually.
Well, so what kind of advice would you give? Because there seem to be a lot of voices that we have all the time, so sometimes there is the voice where it's like, no, this is your intuition, but there's also the voice of here's my trauma, and then there's other things going on. So what advice would you give to our audience when it comes to how to discern between the various voices that you hear?
Well, if you pause and go inwards and try to let it grow a little bit, like put attention on it and let it grow, I think you will notice if it's something positive and helpful or something detrimental that's more like blocking you or holding you back. The problem is that we like rush over these things. Yeah, not logic thought, let's just move on. And it's so much better to like pause and wait and explore it a little bit. And fear itself or anxiety itself is not a problem. It's pretty good that we are fearful of some things because otherwise we wouldn't survive. The problem is when we're stuck in it. So it's like a biological reaction where there's an over energy in our bodies, and then we can either freeze or flee. It's flight or freeze reflex. And very often we just push through and we don't take any time to like deal with it and like shake it off. And that's what we should actually do. So movement is really important. If you feel anxious, I mean, it feels really good to like, cuddle into your bed and get a blanket, and it's really good. Also,
I'm guilty. I've done that.
Yes, it's important to do that and to take care of yourself and to allow yourself to like, be weak or be sad or be tired. But once you can get your energy back together, take a walk outside in nature and move your skin. Moving the skin, getting sensory stimulation, the best is like a park, nature, hug a tree. It really actually does something with us. It's really helpful. So go outside, connect to people are helpful. It is not, if you're feeling down or low and your best friends usually say, come on, you're not like that, and just, brush it off and you'll be fine. And that's not helpful. Go with somebody
Right.
who says, oh, do you want to tell me more about it?
Yeah, that reminds me of a story. I went through a breakup once, and my friend called me and I'm crying, and she's like, why are you crying? Like, stop crying. I'm like, no, like, I want to feel this. Like, I want to deeply feel what this feels like in my chest. I want to like transmute it and heal it. And so there is this stigma that we're not allowed to feel and not allowed to fully, like, it's automatic, like, don't cry, like shove it away. But no, like, I wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry. And I spent 3-4 days like deeply with that emotion, and then it passed. Then I was able to move on. Yeah.
Exactly. It does pass. When we give it room, it will actually pass. Our bodies are not made for failure and for stuckness and for just being there forever in that point. We are made to move on. So if you cry and if you let it out and if you process it, then it will be done. And it can come back in waves, like on certain anniversary dates or with some triggers. But if you always like brush it off and move on, it never gets the chance to heal, to transcend. Right. Yes.
Yeah. But then it's the fun journey because you release that part, then the next challenge comes for you to heal. It's like an onion, right?
Yes.
Many layers.
Yes. But the onion, like with an onion, the outer skins are really thick, and then you get to the smaller, more delicate ones inside. But when you move through trauma or through anxiety or depression or whatever it is that you're struggling with, you will become more resilient because you train your body to deal with it in a different way, in a healthier way, better coping. Like instead of binge eating, we do something else. We go out and take a walk, or instead of drinking or smoking or partying, or there are so many unhealthy coping mechanisms. And if people would just start to be their worst enemy, like
right.
Not talking themselves down for I couldn't handle it, and so I failed, and there's no other judge so critical as ourselves, right?
Oh yes. So
I mean, for this program, everybody here is wanting to step into their power, right? That's our topic. That's what we want. So if you manage to talk to yourself in a nice way, like actually encouraging yourself and saying yes, and you deserve it too, and you can do it. If Christina could do it, and if Monica could do it, I can do it too. Why not? Like, we're not some, superwomen or something. We're just regular people. So everybody else can too, with little steps and just going forward and moving every day a little closer to that goal. And if you want something practical, like, who wants something practical? Do you want something practical?
I do, yes. So what would be one practical tip or trick that you would offer to our audience on how to step into their power?
Yeah. So I'm a total body language nerd.
Okay. I love that.
I love body language, and I love studying it and using it to, convince, to get contracts signed in the way I want them to be signed, to have better relationship with my kids and all of it. So something really easy that you can do with yourself is changing your posture. The more room we take at any given place, in any given space, the more room we occupy, the better and the more important and the more powerful we feel. So if you tend to like cross your legs and be like really small, or take out your phone, it's terrible habit. It makes you really small. Instead, before there's an important meeting or something, go to a secret place, hidden place, and do the Superwoman power pose. So put your hands. It's so funny because my black shirt is like a ghost here.
I'll do it for you over here.
So hands on your hips, and then if you stand up and also have like a stance that's a bit wider than your hips, and then chin up and look to the far distance, and just do that for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, doesn't have to be half an hour. And that will change how you feel, because we use a certain body language if we feel weak or sad or powerful, but it also works the other way around. And we do it so often without even noticing, like this, the phone posture, it's like, ooh, it's like a sad.
It's so true. And I've noticed it even with my posture, like being on the computer all day, but it's really keeping yourself small and not allowing yourself to be in like the full presence of who you are.
Right, right. So do things that like extend your body, try to sit and, in postures that take in more room, and, or do the Superwoman stance, wide angles here with your elbows and a bit wider angles with your feet, and just occupy that space. And I guarantee that your meeting will be better.
That is beautiful. Well, Christina, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and all of your guidance. I know that you have a free gift for our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. So you will get or you can download. Where is the button? Like,
yeah, so there is a link right below this video. So click in the link and you'll get onto Christina's page and find all the information, right?
Take it here. Exactly. So what I will gift you is a meditation with my herd. It's about 10 minutes long, and I will guide you through a renewing, empowering meditation with beautiful pictures of my herd of horses. And then there's some other parts. It's like a small course, but you don't have to like register and give me all your data and your street address, nothing. You just watch it, okay? And if you want to get in touch, then you write me an email. So I'll be happy with that. You can enjoy it. And after the meditation, I'll tell you a bit more about why it actually works. So we go again into this heart math part and what is coherence and why is it good for us, and some other examples. So it's like a half-hour mini course about that empowering energy that the horses can give us and why. So
wow, that's like so beautiful.
Intro.
And just listening to that, and like that one point that you mentioned about the heart coherence of the herd itself, just feeling that energy, I'm sure it's very powerful. So make sure that you click on the link below, learn more about Christina, join her world. Christina, thank you again so much. It was such an honor to chat with you today. Thank you, audience, for joining us, and we'll see you at the next conversation.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me, Monica. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Very fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.